Hey there everyone, it's AJ back again for the Mighty Glue Stick channel, your D&D infotainment specialist, here with a fairly different video for you. This is a kind of an explorers video, but an entirely weird and fantastic sort of explorers video. Okay, first let me thank a few people who this would not have happened without. The patron who asked me to expand on the realm of Arachne and her monstrous children in the Ethereal realm, Kenneth Kroger, this is for you. Might not exactly be what you were expecting, but I think you'll dig it. Second, the faithful and brilliant crew of the Players Tavern. Their playtest session and brainstorming really helped cement the mechanics for what I'm about to lay on you. So thank you guys, very much appreciated. Now, let me ask you a question. When you are midway through a really great campaign with very cool and enjoyable player characters, and for whatever reason things go south, dice go sour, tactics fail, monsters get lucky, and all of the player characters die. We call this a total party kill, or a TPK. And although we say there is no winning or losing in Dungeons & Dragons, this feels very much like game over, you lose, probably the end of the campaign as well, so the DM kind of loses as well. It sucks. My very good friends, let me give you a solution to this problem. I am calling this Death is Not the End. The characters have died. The DM says, wait a minute everyone, before you roll up new characters, can I give you an option? The DM reaches down and picks up a special folder, unseals it and takes out a small selection of notes. You are standing very near to your dead bodies. Looking around, the world has taken on a misty, out of focus quality. You seem solid enough, as do your companions. They're looking clean, fresh, vital, somewhat better than they did before actually. The bodies are your own, there is no doubt of this. This is where you died. Those bodies on the ground, you are dead. There seems to be a direction that is more misty and out of focus than the other directions, and any movement toward it seems to be very easy, while moving away from it is almost painfully hard. It's like some force is pulling you there. Not physically. You realize you don't have a physical body anymore. This form is made of thought, not muscle. It seems that your memories and emotions are churning around within you. They are your new flesh. You are not a living being anymore. You are a spirit. And this is the border of the ethereal plane. What do you do? There is a small amount of adjustment needed, some simple arithmetic and some new ways to handle basic mechanics of the game. So I'll take you through it. Take your total hit points and add any of your mental attributes, so your intelligence, wisdom and charisma, that are higher than 9. Any attribute that will give you a negative modifier is disregarded. These are added together and form a pool of soul points, I'm going to call them. They act in most ways like hit points, except they can be used in some different ways. More on that in a moment. When characters start out in spirit form, they will always be short of their soul point maximum by exactly 10 points. This is kind of the border tax to the ethereal plane. Next, your armor class is determined by adding your wisdom attribute to your proficiency bonus. This means that characters like clerics, monks, druids, and paladins are going to be your most well-protected spirits in the afterlife. It makes sense. Finally, to determine attacks on other things, other beings, and other inanimate objects, there are 2 types of attack bonus. One is for all attacks designed to harm the target, to damage, and for those attacks, we add a roll of d20 to the proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. For all attacks designed to charm, bewitch, and beguile a target, we use the charisma modifier instead. All conflicts and most encounters with other beings are going to involve gaining or losing soul points. Attacks that harm other beings, where they are forced to lose points against their will, create negative energy. This is represented by negative markers that the DM gives to players for these kinds of attacks. Actions that cause other beings to willingly or unwillingly give up their soul points will gain targets positive energy markers, not to the characters who receive these points, but the characters who give them up. Oh yes, important point. All soul point damage is given over to the attacker, so attacking another will bolster your own points total by the same amount that they lost, unless it's just an object or whatever. Also, any character, any being, can willingly give their soul points to another, to increase their total and gain positive markers for themselves. Giving soul points to allies can boost their attack rolls, saving throws, and defenses. More on that in a moment. Movement in the ethereal plane for spirits is strongly encouraged to be a one-way trip from the material plane to the fugue plane, where the soul is judged by Kalimvor and passed on to the appropriate afterlife in one of the outer planes. Moving against this direction can be damaging. That is represented by a variable difficulty class and saving throws that must be made against it. If the character fails this save, they take 1d6 damage to their soul points. This effect is fairly constant, but the difficulty of the saving throw is only high on the border ethereal and on the border of the fugue plane itself. Moving around in the deep ethereal is not restricted. The spirit flow seems to allow spirits a more gentle persuasion as they pass through there. I've created a handy graphic here as a guide to what these difficulty class zones are. And of course it's a map of the different areas, a rough one. Characters may add their proficiency bonus to this saving throw, but other than that they just roll a d20. As mentioned, soul points can be given away. This is just like a healing ability. It can be done from a distance or by contact with another being. The act of giving points earns the character positive energy markers. Every 10 points gives one marker. So you give away 10 points of your soul points, you get one positive marker. Just as every 10 points of damage they cause to another being earns them one negative energy marker, although they still gain those points. When a character receives points given to them willingly, they also have a temporary boost to their defenses, attacks, and saving throws. Whatever their next roll is, they get to roll with advantage, or in defense, the opponent rolls to attack with disadvantage. Moving back into the living world, the material plane is difficult. First, the DC to crossover is 20. And failing that save loses 10 soul points automatically. In order to come back as a living being, total soul points needs to be your starting total plus twice your character's level. If you have less than that, you get bounced back into the border ethereal again, automatically losing another 10 soul points from the ethereal border tax. So as characters and players, you won't know these little details the first time that happens, and it can be tricky. If the character has the required number of soul points to return, then the number of positive or negative markers they may have acquired becomes critically important. I've created this handy graphic here to work with it. Take your total positive and negative markers. They cancel each other out. We only want to know if the ledger has more positive or more negative overall. If the total is 5 more positive, then the character will wake up in an entirely new body, as per the reincarnate spell. If they can, or they can raise the dead, as per the spell. It may be more viable if the character's body has been very severely dismembered to come back as another form of creature. They've got that option. If the character has accumulated 10 or more positive markers, they can choose to resurrect, as per the spell, and completely reform their original body, good as new. So they need to have their total soul points plus twice their hit point total above and beyond their maximum. Plus they have to, after cancelling out all the positive and negative markers, they have to have 10 positive markers more to resurrect completely. So it's pretty difficult. If they have more negative markers than positive ones, they get to roll on this table to see what sort of undead creature they come back as, because they've accumulated negative energy. They add points to the random dice result based on how many negative markers they have, and if they come back as undead, they have very low intelligence, then that's just the way the corpse crumbles. They're not going to make very nice player characters. The DM may rule that they've become non-playable monsters at that point. Nothing stopping other characters from coming back and trapping these undead companions and seeking to cure them, though. Characters who come back with no positive or negative markers, they don't have an imbalance, they're just neutral, but not enough soul points to be restored, always come back as revenants. That's why revenant is a player character option. Characters who return as undead will most likely wind up being destroyed at some point. They are, after all, beset with horrendous compulsions, murderous hungers, and their very existence is unpleasant. Spending too much time in this condition will absolutely warp and traumatize them. There is a good reason that undead are almost always evil. Negative energy is destructive. It drains life around it. There is an imbalance that cannot be corrected on the mortal plane. Only when the undead character is destroyed can it restore the balance in the ethereal plane, or just give it up and pass on to the outer planes. Of course, the second time around, the gods are not going to look very kindly on the character's past deeds as they try to cheat death, and that's a big no-no. It's probably grounds for a devil arguing the case that the soul should be handed over for eternal punishment. Devils, of course, spend a lot of time in the ethereal plane. They ply their trade there very successfully, but they have to do it very carefully and under the watchful eye of celestial beings, particularly Archons. As always, it's a concern. So devils don't tend to attack souls, they charm and befriend them or offer information, deals and favours. Devils are very motivated and very patient. They will certainly provide soul points for those who need them. They will assist a character in returning to the material plane, but of course the character must sign over their soul points to the devil once they return to the afterlife eventually, whenever that may be. The devil will stress that the character will have to willingly hand over the points. They won't make it totally clear that signing the contract demonstratively proves that the character attempted to break the law of the gods and is therefore now legal property of the nine hells. So yes, devils will help, devils will accept soul points and give soul points, provide information and assist in sticky situations with other predators of the ethereal, but there is a very severe price to be paid. A divine spellcaster who bargains with a devil for resurrection is now a pact sworn warlock, not a servant of the gods any longer. This is something the devil cannot avoid mentioning to the spellcaster before any deal is made. They have to be able to prove that the character did this of their own free will, if called before the celestial bureaucracy, and to answer a legal challenge, which they most certainly would be in the case of a divine spellcaster. Archons can provide practically unlimited soul points, but they are not going to help characters return to the mortal world. They are obligated by law and duty to assist souls onto their judgment and passage to the outer planes, to protect against predation by lost souls and the manipulation of devils. They have the power to rebuke devils and send them on their merry way, but they don't fight the devils, since the devils are generally obeying divine law. Archons come in many varieties. The best known are the hound, trumpet, and lantern kind, but there are many more, such as the word, hammer, justice, owl, sword, throne, warden, and the tome Archons. The tome Archons are hugely powerful rulers of the heavens of Mount Celestia and are collectively called the Celestial Hebdomad. Hebdomad? But I digress. I should mention that this whole system and the environment of the ethereal plane, the deep ethereal and the Fugue plane, is getting a lot of explanation and description for my awesome Patreon supporters in a future video. Otherwise, I will be at some point making a PDF of all of this for sale on the DMs Guild if all goes according to plan. The Fugue plane is not often mentioned because it's impossible for mortal creatures to get there. There are portals that lead from the infernal and celestial planes, so demons, devils, and celestial beings have open access, as well, of course, as the souls of the dead. Because this is a place of judgment, the only notable feature on this grey, bland, and bleak plane is a large wall. The wall is a very unpleasant structure that is composed of the doomed souls of those who have had no faith in the gods, the faithless. The souls of those who would await judgment are called petitioners and are protected from the devils, but they've got to watch out for the demons though. And the souls that have been judged and rejected by the gods are called the false, and they are often tormented by devils and demons as they wander around not having a good time at all, looking up in desperation at the only other feature here, which is called the Crystal Tower. It's actually a metropolis, really, this great big crystal tower, home of Kalimvor and Yergul. The tower is a massive glittering spire of transparent rock, and it embodies Kalimvor's promise of open, fair, and impartial judgment. Once the soul enters the Fugue plane, it cannot leave by any means but by the leave of a god. So demons and devils cannot just snatch souls and make off with them. They are only allowed to take those who get sent to them after judgment. Otherwise, the souls get collected by the representatives of whatever outer plane they are suitable for and go on their way. So there is a constant bustle of activity within the crystal spire. It's a busy, yet a highly organised, and time on the Fugue plane, along with everything else, is static. So it seems like it takes years to get things done there, only to find that outside the plane no time has passed at all. It only means that the devils can torment souls for as long as they want to, and the souls have to endure whatever is dished out to them with no chance of reprieve. Okay, so that should be enough to provide a basic working rule for how to handle an adventure in the afterlife, a way to recover a campaign from a total party kill, an emergency side quest that may end up being quite legendary. As I mentioned, I'm going to be expanding greatly on the creatures that you can find in the ethereal plane and the sort of things that could make this a really interesting side quest, even a campaign in its own right. And yeah, I'll expand on that more for my Patreon subscribers. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed that revolutionary idea as a means of handling a total party kill and carrying on a campaign that may have ended too soon. So, thanks for listening, everybody. I'll catch you again soon.